Gottfried, and you're listening to Gilbert Gottfried's amazing Colossal podcast. Today, we're talking to one of the greatest illustrators and cartoonists of our time. His work has appeared in the New York Times, Newsweek, Esquire, Rolling Stone, Time, National Lampoon, and the Wall Street Journal, just to name a few. So today, Frank Santopadre and myself sat down with Drew Friedman at New York City Society of Illustrators. The name of his brand new book is Heroes of the Comics, featuring 85 portraits of the legends of comic books published by Fantagraphics Books. So now we talk to Drew Friedman. Hi, I'm Gilbert Gottfried, and I'm here with my co-host, Frank Santopadre, and this is the amazing Colossal podcast. We're here, today we're taping at the Society of Illustrators on 63rd between Park and Lex, where they're currently having a whole gallery of the work of Drew Friedman. And if you don't know that name, you'd recognize his drawings from, like, National Lampoon, where I met him, and the New Yorker, and I think every other magazine.
Playboy, yeah, everywhere else.
So
Entertainment Weekly.
Playboy. Was I in Playboy? I don't remember.
You
that.
weren't in Playboy?
No.
Oh.
No.
See, I told Frank never to talk during this show. I begged him.
You were never in Playboy?
No, I was never in Playboy.
See, you're killing the show.
I've read
Shut
Playboy.
up.
My dad was in Playboy.
You don't know anything about my guest.
Where do you come up?
Please shut up, Frank. He has to mention Playboy. You've never been in it.
No, I never.
Entertainment Weekly.
Yes,
Yes.
there you go. There you go. We mix them up.
You're in Highlight. Yeah.
Highlights, yes. I only went to the dentist to read highlights.
Yes.
It's the only reason.
Now, we did meet, I'm pretty sure, at National Lampoon.
We did. We kind of found each other there because we both loved Lon Chaney Jr.
Yes.
And Lionel Atwell and George Zucco, so we had that in common, and especially Tor Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
So we clicked.
And I remember I used to write articles at the time, and for National Lampoon.
This is when National Lampoon was no longer funny. This is the 80s. It was no longer funny, but so that's when we joined.
It's kind of like my season of Saturday Night Live. It's when the show stopped being funny.
That's right.
Belushi had left, Chevy Chase had left.
You had Joe Piscopo.
Yes. So I bring in the
Charlie Rocket. Charlie Rocket, right? What happened to him?
Oh, I could tell you.
He says fuck and the career is over. Over and out. Over and out. But we loved him. I remember him fondly. Not a Jew. No.
Charlie's no longer with us.
I know that. You know, God bless his soul. That's what you're supposed to say, right? God bless his soul. Fuck him. But he's not a Jew, and he's not hanging on the wall.
And do you remember what I nicknamed you at Lampoon?
Well, I know you're lying whenever we run into each other. To this day, Jew dots. Of course, I haven't drawn with dots for 20 years.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
I don't renew my material.
It's an affectionate.
If you know anything about me,
That's for sure.
He
I've
hasn't
been doing
updated.
the same act since I was 12.
It's a tradition with us. Jew dots.
Yeah, you would come in with your head down, and I'd follow you around and start screaming,
right.
Jew dots!
Yeah.
Everyone bow down to Jew dots.
That's right.
Because you would shade with millions of tiny
right.
dots.
Obsessive dots.
And I'm tapping on a table like,
That's right. You remember that?
Yes.
Gilbert used to come over to my apartment on 6th Street. You know, the block with all the 400 Indian restaurants.
Oh, yes.
I'd be working on a deadline, and Gilbert would knock on the door, so I'd let him in. So what do you want? He said, I want to watch Plan 9 from Outer Space. I actually had a VHS recorder. Gilbert just got one last year. So I put that on, or the Black Sleep, or the old shitty.
I just got a Betamax.
Exactly. Doesn't that work like a charm?
Yeah.
I I'm into Beta too. But we would sit there in silence and watch these movies together.
Beast of Yucca Flats.
Well, that too. Yeah,
And
anything with Tor Johnson.
What I remember too is when I was a kid, they would have like reruns of Route 66 every day at a certain time. And I always knew there was this one episode called, I think, Owlet's Wing and Lizard's Tail.
That's it.
And that had Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney Jr., and Peter Lorre.
Right.
And I would check the TV section every day. The one day I don't check it, I realized that one aired.
That's right.
And
I think I missed that too, but we used to see the photographs in Famous Monsters.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Lon Chaney had lousy werewolf makeup on.
Oh, horrible.
Boris Karloff, they just stuck a thing on his head.
The worst.
And Peter Lorre didn't have to wear any makeup anyway.
That was what was so ridiculous.
Very weak.
At the end, they're supposed to come out as their classic characters. So Boris Karloff's in Frankenstein makeup, Lon Chaney Jr.'s in Wolfman makeup,
right.
and Peter Lorre's wearing a top hat.
That's right.
Not Mr. Moto?
No, nothing.
He should have.
He was that. But in theory, it sounded great. But when you actually watched it, it was one of those things. This stinks. It was terrible.
It was awful.
That's right.
I thought, how could it be bad? With
George
those
Maharis
three?
was better in that. It was just a big disappointment, but it didn't live up.
Now, here's always the test. Can you name the person who was caught in the men's room with George Maharis?
Oh, that guy? Tom Leopold would know.
Yeah,
'cause he's
I know it.
I don't know his name.
Oh, I'm ashamed.
And I'm ashamed. I do know who played in the Amazing Colossal Man. That was Glenn Langdon.
Oh, very good.
Gilbert had asked me about that earlier, and I didn't Google it. It just came to me.
Nice
Anyway, the guy in the men's room was Perfecto Tellis.
That's right.
A guy who could only. When you have a name like that.
Can you get him for this show? Do you think?
It's hard to get.
That's a great story.
He's the only person I can get for this show.
I think you should track him down and get him because that's an amazing story, which we can't tell on this show, but it was very disappointing.
Perfecto Telez.
Yeah,
I've heard
I
Leopold
do
mention that name.
That's
Yeah,
right. I think he
yeah.
wrote a book. Didn't he write a book like Lance Rensel wrote a book?
I believe he did.
He wrote his book too. Lance Rensel was, of course, Joey Heatherton's husband, who
Yeah.
Woody Allen was into children.
Oh.
I go there. I'm going there.
Wow.
Someone asked me about Woody Allen. Drew, do you believe it? I said, I don't know. I wasn't there. But to me, the worst crime is these shitty movies he's made for the last 20 years. That offends me.
I think the first horror movie that I remember seeing as a little boy was The Indestructible Man.
Right, we've
with
discussed that.
Lon Chaney Jr., Joe Flynn from McHale's
Right.
Navy.
Wow.
And I think it was Robert Shane.
And Casey Adams.
Oh, Casey Adams, who was also known as Max Showalter.
Remember him, Frank?
I remember.
That's right.
I remember Robert Shane
Comedic.
from Superman.
Yes,
playing
yeah.
Yeah.
Inspector Henderson.
But,
right, he's in
but Casey Adams, and he was also known as Max Showalter, was also in 16 Candles with Molly Ringwald.
wow.
Yeah.
And he was in the Twilight Zone episode where with Billy Mummy, where he sends everybody out into the corn.
Oh,
Cornfield.
wow.
He's in
yes,
Oh, I know who he
yes.
is.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah,
who
he
he
had
is.
those
Now.
real crazy eyes.
He was serious, and then he went comedic.
I know who he is.
And then he went back to comedic.
That's when you said that.
Yeah. Or back to serious. Yeah. Casey Adams.
And-
but we used to watch that. We used to talk about that because Lon Chaney had those baggy eyes at that
Oh,
point.
yeah. They used to show close-ups of his eyes
That's right.
in the movie.
Gilbert and I watched that on Chilla Theater,
Yeah.
just, when we were kids.
Yeah.
Because they show it every other week, practically.
And they're
Oh, what's-
playing like dramatic music on his eyes, like it's supposed. And the scary thing is he's got a drunk's eyes.
That's right.
It's
Very baggy and red. It was black and white. Back in those days,
You could see the red
I think
in the black and
Chilla
white.
Theater showed about they rotated about 6 different movies. So that was it was going to come up once a month. It was that and the Giant Behemoth and the Black Sleep, and then back to Indestructible Man.
And
So-
the Black Sleep was a big disappointment because that was Lon Chaney Jr., John Carradine,
It was an incredible
George
cast.
Johnson.
Yeah. And Basil Rathbone.
And it's like the parts with the main aunt, Bela Lugosi,
That's
who's
right.
not talking.
His official last film. You know, Plan 9, he kind of walked around in front of Tor Johnson's house, and then the graveyard. But Black Sleep was his official.
Is that the one you
last
emailed me the photographs from?
I'm sure I did.
They're having lunch in the cafe.
That's right.
Yes.
Life magazine sent photographers there. They never ran the photographs, but they took hundreds of photographs at a restaurant in Hollywood in 1956 when they wrapped the film, and they were all in costume. So Tor Johnson comes in with, his undershirt on, shaved head, and he was there to eat. They were all, they were hungry, but. These amazing photographs. Life magazine.
They are wonderful pictures.
They never released them, and they never showed them in the magazine. But years later, that's why the interwebs are nice. I mean, sometimes they work.
And I heard they used to try to eat in the commissary, and everyone's complaining about how disturbing they look.
Well, yeah, those guys and the woman with the hair popping out of her. The bald woman with the hair popping out of her face, and the guy with the half his face, George Chiquita.
Yes.
Yeah, it was disturbing. It had this amazing cast.
He had a sailor's outfit.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know why that was so scary.
I forget who the writer was, but they flash back to Tor Johnson before he becomes a mongoloid idiot, and he's like a professor. He's like
he's wearing a monocle.
That's right.
Yes.
It's like the poor professor from Russia, and look at him now.
like a monocle. Well, he must be smart, because how else could you wear a monocle?
That's right. He was always an intellectual at the beginning, and then he becomes a mongoloid idiot.
Like anyone could possibly believe.
He's a police chief in Plan 9 from outer space, of course. Professor Clay. I mean, Dr.
A police chief who can't walk 3 feet without getting winded.
He pulls out his pistol, and that's it. But he had his most dialogue in that film, a soliloquy, basically.
Oh, yeah, and Lon Chaney Jr. plays Mongo.
That's right.
And it's supposed to be that originally he was also a brilliant professor named Dr. Monroe.
That's right.
But because now he's a monster, they can't call him Dr. Monroe. They have to give him a monster name.
Right. He was Mongo or Lobo. He went back and forth. Usually he was Lobo, no matter what movie he was in. So,
like if a guy's name was Jack Jones, they couldn't call him Jack Jones if he's a monster.
That's right.
So it would be like JoJo or something.
My favorite Tor Johnson moment is when he was on You Bet Your Life with Groucho Marx.
Oh, my God, yes.
In 1960. He was plugging a film that never even came out. Night of the Ghouls, I think it was called.
Say the secret word and you divide an extra 100 go there. Who are you, crew chef?
Tor Johnson.
You're Tor Johnson? Why? Did he get angry at him?
No, that's the sweetest name. Tor Johnson is the sweetest name.
Oh, Tor Johnson, you mean, huh?
Yes.
I can't say Johnson. Just for the record, what's your gross tonnage?
It's about 387 pounds.
Is that strip for Jim?
That's soaking wet.
What are the rest of your dimensions, Tor? Personally, I'm not interested, but you may be an old boxcar that the Union Pacific Railroad is looking for.
My hips are 60, my stomach waistline is 54, and the chest is 62. My bicep is 22, and the neck is 20.
We have the same measurements. Yes. His chest and my automobile. Now, let me get this straight. You're 62, 54, 60?
That's right.
All right, I don't understand. With those measurements, you ought to be twice as attractive as Jane Mansfield. But for some peculiar reason, you're not. Not to me, anyhow. Now, you say you're Japanese, Tor?
No, I'm Swedish.
Oh, well, what part of Japan are you from?
Stockholm.
Stockholm is in Japan?
Stockholm is in Sweden, not in Japan.
You mean, you said that Stockholm was in Japan.
You said Stockholm was in Japan.
I said Stockholm was in Japan? Really, I always thought it was in Sweden. Well, you learn something every day, except today.
No,
but they had beautiful chemistry together.
Your name is Tor Johnson.
Tor Johnson?
And you're a Night of the Ghouls.
Tor was frustrated, and then he got into it. And I think they could have taken the act on the road.
Did he know he was that Groucho Marx was a comedian?
He had no clue. No clue. He was there for the money, I think. And he didn't get a single question right.
Did Fenneman treat him well?
Greek mythology was his category. I don't know how he picked that. He stood there in silence.
You look at him and you say, "Oh, this guy knows
an
Greek
expert.
mythology."
Somehow that was his category. He didn't get one right, and he left with nothing. And it was one of the great moments
So Gilbert would come to your apartment to watch, and you would put these movies on for him
We'd
on
sit there in
VHS.
silence and watch them.
It was the first time I saw that episode of Route 66.
That's right. I played it for
And
him.
it was a bad copy. It was all like
everything was bad
staticky.
then. That's all you had.
Yeah. But it was
A bad copy of a bad show.
Then I finally got a clean copy, and it was just god-awful.
Even worse. That's right.
But
That's right.
that was the one of two times Lon Chaney was on Route 66, if you remember, because he also played George Maharis's father.
Do I remember?
In an episode.
How could
Who
I
are you
forget?
talking to?
Who are you talking
Yeah.
to? Do I remember?
And who was also on that, and they didn't have a scene together like idiots. They didn't put them together, was Betty Fields, who starred with Lon Chaney
right.
in Of Mice and Men.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And they did no scenes together,
Oh,
which
wow.
was idiotic.
Really? What were they thinking? Betty Fields? No, I didn't know that. I forgot that.
I did not
That's
know
terrible.
that.
I did not know
Yes.
that. Betty Fields.
And what would happen when you told Gilbert that he had to leave because you had
I felt bad about
you actually
it, 'cause
had
I
to
was-
work. You had a deadline.
I was a fan of Gilbert, as a comedian. And it's like, Gilbert, I have to, after a couple hours, like Gilbert lived about a block from me. I was on 6th Street, and Gilbert.
I lived on Avenue A.
Gilbert was on Avenue A, so I sent him home, and and we
put on the park.
And he'd come back next week. And, it was beautiful. I sent him home to his mom, and he'd come back next week.
I was basically like Kramer.
That's right. You show up. You were my Norton.
Yes.
Get out! And he'd come back, and always forgiven. But we had those were happy times. We had lots of fun.
Oh boy.
Now, and I remember they also used to show Boris Karloff in The Haunted Strangler.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it was like a bad
I like
Jekyll
the
and Hyde.
late 50s Boris Karloff.
Oh, yes,
That
real
that-
bad.
The Manster? No, that wasn't.
Oh,
I'm
the
thinking.
Manster I liked.
We love the Manster.
Yeah.
You remember that,
Yeah.
Frank?
That one.
We love that.
scared
That's
me.
Yeah, it was a two-head. It was a joint production of America and Japan.
Right. He's
Manster.
two-headed guy. He's got another little Manster growing inside his body. And when they finally split apart, they do it. There's a tree between them.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden they come apart. I thought it was amazing when I was a kid.
Yes.
And later on I figured out they were just saving money on special.
Yes.
So there's a tree between them and he splits off.
And I'm going, wait a second. If two bodies split apart from one body, how come his clothes are covering
That's
him
right, that's
on
right.
both bodies?
And the Manster is the other little guy is a Japanese guy in makeup too. I think that's Glenn Langdon too. It was like a blonde-haired guy who played the poor Manster.
But there was one great scene where he gets affected by radiation or whatever the hell, and he's looking in the bathroom mirror, pulls down his shirt, and on the back of his shoulder is an eye.
A little eyeball.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's disturbing. Have you showed that to your son yet?
No,
You're saving that? Save that for him.
It's like a,
that was a
a
treat.
cousin of the incredible two-headed transplant.
Basically, it was like an early
Early
version of
With
that. Yeah,
Ray Milland.
Before
Ray
they,
Milland,
yeah, before they
Rosie Greer.
found Rosie. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
and-
like that. It was the beginning of that genre of film, two-headed.
And all I could think about watching that one was how bad Rosie Greer must have smelled, like in the.
It's possible Ray Milland didn't smell so great either.
That's true too.
Just because he was a football
He was
player.
and big and fat.
Rosie
true,
Greer
you're a
went
big guy.
from protecting Robert Kennedy from getting killed. He did a great job to co-starring
the
and
two-headed transplant.
and he was knitting at the same time too.
So he would have to go to job interviews and go, "What was your last job?" Well, I was protecting the life of
Senator Kennedy.
Of Senator Kennedy.
And you're hired.
And yeah, great.
Nice job.
That went well.
Got him hired on the incredible two-headed.
before we go completely off track here,
didn't Lurch?
But wait,
Sorry,
before I
one
forget.
One segue. Didn't Lurch? Wasn't he Lurch protecting JFK in Dallas?
Ted Cassidy?
Ted Cassidy. I know he was on the grassy knoll.
I think that
Woody
was
Harrelson's father
he was
there.
he was a newspaper.
That was cousin It.
That's right.
Was protecting John Kennedy, and I remember in the two-headed transplant. Ray Milland is there with his head over Rosie Greer's
That was
shoulder.
a good scene.
That was the special
And they
effect.
run. They do a lot of running.
Oh, yes. And when they're running, it's Rosie Greer running and this little balloon with a smiley face on it bouncing around.
Ray Milland was an Oscar winner,
Yes,
for Lost Weekend. And here he is with Rosie Greer.
And there's one part where he takes over control of the mind while Rosie Greer is asleep. And he makes Rosie Greer punch himself in the face and knock himself out.
It was beautiful.
It was sort of a brotherhood story, wasn't it? Supposed to be like the Defiant Ones as Siamese twins.
And then there was the other one
with Bruce Stern.
Yes.
That's right.
But he was the mad
That was one of those films that Famous Monsters would showcase it, and it looked like it was going to be great. Sort of like Dracula versus Frankenstein with Vyzandor Vorkov.
Oh my God!
And then you'd see it, and it was the worst piece of shit. I was like, what are they thinking? Who's paying these guys off?
Oh, Frankenstein versus Dracula.
And that's Lon Chaney's last film,
and J. Carroll
Nash's film.
And I heard
and
that
Russ Tamblyn was in there.
Oh yes, from West Side Story.
And strippers were in there. And Anthony Ashley, I think, is in there.
And I heard at one time. Lon Chaney was sitting in the room with J. Carroll Nash, and he said, "Oh, well, Jay, I guess we're both going to be dead soon." And J. Carroll Nash said, "Shut up, Lon." But he was right. I think they both died shortly after.
It's true. That was the last film. Gilbert, you used to talk about Return from the Past with Lon Chaney.
Oh, my God,
and that was he played a doctor, a scientist.
Yeah, brilliant doctor.
And all he did was talk about his theories. I have a theory. I have a theory. You never figured out what his theory was, but that was all his I have a theory.
He was supposed to be a Scottish doctor, which he's very convincing as a Scottish
that film
doctor.
is great because you watch that, and John Carradine is the host. And he's holding a cigarette throughout the whole film as he's hosting.
Yes.
In his hand.
He can't even bother to put it down because he knows what shit he's filming.
Right,
he won't even bother to put the
I think they're paying him $100. And they fed him, and it's a piece of shit. But, Gilbert and I used to discuss that film.
The fact that he even put his pants on.
That's right. He came to, they pay him, and he's like Henny Youngman. They pay him, and he's the Henny Youngman of horror actors. You're going to pay me? I'll come.
And he's a Scottish doctor in like the 1800s.
Yeah, that's right. And Rochelle Hudson was in that, too.
Yes.
Who wasn't once a star.
And there's one scene, and it takes place in the 1800s, and
it was like Dark Shadows. There were flashbacks.
And Lon Chaney's wearing a wristwatch through the whole movie.
It's like Jerry Lewis in The Day the Clown Cried. He's got his wristwatch, he's got his pinky ring, and he's got his black shiny shoes on. But aside from that, yes, he's in Auschwitz.
And he's got the pomade in his hair.
Right. So because we're here at the Society of Illustrators...
Oh, wait. I just remembered.
I'm never going to get to this.
When he finally brings...
One more point.
When Chaney brings the guy to life, the dead body...
Yes.
he walks off just to have a scene where, I guess for the dead guy to kill the other two students. And he walks off for no reason. I think for a phone call.
Yeah, or get a drink.
In the 1800s.
He's getting a drink.
And he goes off. and then when they go back to Chaney, he's like there supposedly just making looks like he's excited about his discovery.
Yeah, his theory. My theory. His theory. You never hear what his theory. It's only my theory. I have a theory.
They wouldn't even bother to come up with how they brought a dead guy. Oh, my theory will bring dead people to life.
That's right. I think one dead guy does pop up off the table.
Yes,
he's
and
a bald guy,
kills.
and he looks like confused, he looks like
what am I doing in
like
this
Doodles Weaver?
movie?
I think he looks like. Yeah, what am I doing? And then he strangles Don Chaney, and that's the end.
Doodles Weaver, who killed himself.
That's right. Very sad.
Indeed, he did.
It's very sad.
But then, if you Doodles Weaver, you'd have to kill yourself. There's no other.
Uncle Sigourney's Uncle Doodles.
Yes.
That's right. Pat Weaver's brother.
That's right. Pat Weaver's brother. Is that why he killed him? My brother's the president of NBC, and I'm a comedian.
Yes.
But I'll take Doodles Weaver any day.
Tell us about meeting Groucho when you were a kid.
Oh, well, my dad actually knew Erin Fleming, who was Groucho's girlfriend in the 60s. Sorry. And, they knew each other, so we were out in Los Angeles in 1974 vacationing, my dad and my brothers. So she called my dad and said, Groucho loves kids. Could you come visit? And, so he mentioned that. Sure, we'd love that. So we went to his house. Groucho answered the door. He came up to us. And first thing he said was, it's a pleasure to meet you and your three lovely daughters. Our hair was a little long. And, so it was an amazing afternoon with Groucho. He sang his songs with Erin Fleming. At one point, my brother Josh asked, Groucho, we used to live in Great Neck, Long Island. There was a theater there called the Playhouse. In the back, they had an old organ. It used to be a vaudeville theater. Do you remember it? And Groucho said, I got an old organ myself. So everything was a straight line and everything was like, he couldn't actually have a conversation with the man. Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys walked in. Groucho he didn't know who he was. He goes to Groucho. He said, Mr. Marx, it's an honor to meet you. And Groucho looks up at him. He goes, it ought to be. And it went on and on like that. But that was like, I was 15 at the time, so that was pretty amazing. We didn't take any photographs, which I don't know why. But there we are.
And I heard that then you got an invitation to come back.
Yes. Actually, my dad, after the next day, Erin Fleming again, the notorious Erin Fleming. But, this was before we knew about her. She was beating him up and slapping him around.
Oh, yeah.
She called back my dad. She called back my dad and says, Groucho had such a great time. He'd like to invite you back next week. And our special guest in the house is going to be Mae West. They haven't seen each other in 35 years since they were at Paramount together. So my dad says to my brothers and I, Groucho's invited us back. Mae West is going to be his guest. And we kind of look at each other and goes, we had enough Groucho. So to this day, I regret that.
Oh, tell the audience who you're, our listener, who your dad was.
Well, my dad's a writer named Bruce J. Friedman.
Still is, I mean.
Yeah, he still is. He's a writer. He's written
you could
movies.
Kill him now, and then he would have been.
Well, he would have.
Bruce J. Friedman.
He still is, and he's still active. But he's written a lot of movies. He's written some movies like Splash and Stir Crazy, and plays like Steam Bath. And he wrote Heartbreak Kid, the movie Heartbreak Kid. It became the Neil Simon film.
Steam Bath, where Valerie Perrine is
I know that's all you remember.
Yes.
Right past Bill Bixby.
Right past the actual plot.
And Bill Bixby was in it.
That's right.
Well, that was the TV version a little later.
Yeah.
Art Matrana was in there, and he had a small part. And Herb Edelman, quite a cast.
Oh, yes.
And Kenneth Mars. And so, that was on TV with Bill Bixby. And I chose Bill Bixby for the part because what do you call it? The public TV, WNET, they proposed three actors to my dad.
Yeah. Dennis
Weaver, James Franciscus, or Bill Bixby. This was like in 1972. Yeah. So my dad didn't know who any of them were. He didn't really watch TV. So he came to me. He said, Drew, who should I pick? I said, Bixby's your man. And I based that on Bixby's perforance in Courtship of Eddie's Father, where he was very good in that with Brandon DeWilde.
And he was really good in Steam Bath.
He was. He was good. It was a good production, and Bill Bixby,
And you could see Valerie Perrine naked.
That's right. That's what everybody seems to remember. Yes. But there was more to it than that.
I'm going to correct you because I got Playboy magazine wrong. Brandon Cruz instead of Brandon DeWilde.
You are right.
Have I redeemed myself?
Who's Brandon DeWilde? Oh, I'm thinking of... Okay.
No.
From Shane.
You keep bringing up Playboy. And it's your biggest disaster.
I'm going to get him working Playboy yet.
Brandon Cruz, who was like, I think dated Jodie Foster, didn't they? They were together in Courtship of Eddie's Father. And then he became a punk singer, didn't he?
I believe so.
You should get him for the show. He's got all those Mrs. Livingston stories.
Didn't he become an animator who worked on South Park?
Quite possible, yeah.
I believe so.
But, he was good on that show, too.
Oh, here, speaking of Groucho, do you remember, you definitely remember this, The Story of Mankind?
Of course.
Yeah.
That was
Irwin
Irwin
Yes.
Allen.
Irwin Allen production.
And he got Harpo and Chico.
And
But not together, not
Chico
together.
and Groucho all separately.
Yeah, not all separate.
Yeah.
Good
You get the Marx Brothers and...
Yeah. It's the Marx Brothers, but
Terrible.
let's have them all work separately
Yeah.
because that's where their strength is.
Well, they pretty much work separately in Love Happy, too.
Basically.
Yeah. Oh, yes, yes.
Well, Groucho was busy with Marilyn Monroe in that one, at least.
Right.
But I think Groucho, he's that guy who discovers Manhattan Island in that one.
Oh, yes.
And
And
Harpo...
one of his ex-wives is like an Indian girl.
Eden, yeah. She doesn't wear pants.
Yeah.
And Harpo she has a little skirt on. I think.
Yeah.
I think that's why he took the part.
Oh, yeah.
Because his wife could get work. But
Yeah.
I think Harpo plays. He plays Isaac Newton.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
And an apple falls on his. He doesn't speak.
And Chico was there because, as always, he was broke.
He needed the
was a
money.
gambler.
All right.
Yeah.
Chico needed the money.
Yeah.
That was always his excuse. Everything Groucho did after 1940. Well, Chico needed the money.
And then they asked me to do it because Chico was in it.
Like, Chico needed them. That's his excuse. Why did you appear in this piece of shit, Groucho? Oh, Chico needed the money. All right, well, we'll give you a free ride then.
Let's go to
Why did you kill that woman and her child?
Chico needed the money.
Yes, Chico was a gambler, and he lost money on a horse. So I killed
Why
him.
did you kill Sharon Tate? Well, Chico needed the money.
Let's talk about something really unusual.
Why did you
unorthodox.
start? Why did you perpetuate the Holocaust?
You won't stop him.
Well, Chico needed the money.
Why did you kill JFK, Groucho? Well, Chico needed the money.
You killed Martin Luther King.
Well, Chico needed the money.
Here, Drew, you want to read the questions?
What's the question?
I heard.
Let's go on.
You
Groucho, why did you bomb the World Trade Center?
Chico needed.
Why did you supply Philip Seymour Hoffman with heroin?
Well, Chico needed the money.
You're off the hook.
Wow. Let me go completely off the reservation here and ask you
Where
about,
can you go from that?
Ask her about your artwork.
Oh, okay.
You draw?
He does. Well, look around us. We're here at the Society of Illustrators. We're celebrating old Jewish comedians right here.
And why are you doing?
Because Chico needed the
right.
money.
When did you know your dad was obviously a comedy writer and you grew up in a funny house? When did you know that you were going to draw as opposed to write?
I actually,
right away?
I'll veer off for a second. It was like I was a weird little
Yeah,
kid.
because it was really going on a straight line.
Exactly.
Up until now.
I'll veer off of Chico.
Okay, I'll see if we can get back.
But I was a strange little kid. Maybe not to you guys, 'cause, we share similar. But when I was a little kid, I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to camp. I didn't want to go out and play. I just wanted to sit in my room with my guinea pig and read Mad Magazine and comic books and Famous Monsters.
Me, exactly.
And watch Soupy Sales.
Still that way.
And watch Soupy Sales and watch
Yes!
the Three Stooges. Yeah, and the Bowery Boys and Adventures of Superman. That's all I wanted. I resented I had to go to school. I had to go to school. I
Oh,
was forced,
yes.
but I'm still angry about that. But I was just obsessed with Mad Magazine, mainly Mad. I got my education from Dave Berg, basically. He taught me everything I needed to know about life from the lighter side. But anyway, like you guys, I was like, just obsessed with comic books and Mad, and that was like, I didn't want to leave my room, and it's like still hard to get me out of my room, my office. So I was drawing at an early age, and I guess I showed some kind of weird talent for it, and I stuck with it, and here we are today.
I remember when I was a kid that in elementary school, the teacher was playing a game like, I'm going to say two initials, and you have to guess a famous person with that name. And, so they go A.L. So, Abraham Lincoln and stuff like that. And then she goes O.S. And I, very excitedly, I was like 4 at the time, I jump up and go, Onslow Stevens.
That would have been my natural reaction.
Yes.
And G.S. Glenn Strange.
Onslow Stevens, like descendants, wouldn't know that name.
You remember him, Frank.
You even lost me on that.
He was the mad doctor in House of Dracula.
That's right.
Oh, I know
who
he
was
is.
going
Okay.
to cure the monsters
Right.
of their ailment.
They couldn't get Boris Karloff for that one.
Did he have a
got
monocle?
Onslow Stevens.
Well, he was under the quicksand from the first one.
They couldn't get Bela Lugosi, so they got John Carradine to play Dracula in that one. But he was actually good. He was good.
He was good, and I
thin.
love Carradine.
He gave him a little mustache.
Yes,
Little like-
and a top hat.
That's right.
And he
He
was
was dashing Dracula.
He was good, and I always loved Carradine, but you had to have Lugosi as Dracula.
You would think. You know,
Yeah.
Abbott and Costello figured that out. Finally.
Yes.
You know, after 20 years, we should get him back as.
Yeah.
He was pretty good in that.
Yeah.
Back in 1930.
Let's
get
see.
him.
That's what started the entire horror craze, is Lugosi as Dracula.
Well,
Maybe he was good.
Let's not use him again as
Yeah.
Dracula. Let's wait 20 years before we use him again.
And in Dracula's Daughter, they had a paper mache
Right.
Bela Lugosi lying in a coffin.
Right.
It was
No
so
indication.
what an
and then,
insult.
And an MGM brought him over for Mark of the Vampire, but he wasn't Dracula. He was like was that Alucard?
No. Alucard.
Wasn't that the son of Dracula?
Yes,
That's
son
right.
of you with Lon Chaney Jr. as the
an overweight the son of Dracula.
yes, very well. Blood has a lot of
That's
calories.
right. He was an over. He had a big paunch when he was the mummy, and he was at a paunch when he played Dracula. He was like the fattest mummy.
Even with all the bandages
Right,
on,
he was a
you
fat-
could see a pot belly.
He was a well-fed mummy. Boris Karloff at least was emaciated. But, Tom Tyler was kind of thin.
Oh,
too,
yes.
But Chaney was a fat mummy. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah,
And,
he was-
they- and what does Universal do? They use him 5 times in mummy films.
Yeah.
Even though he had a big belly.
and a fat Dracula.
Right.
They also gave him a mustache.
That's right. Is the mummy. That's right.
And he still had that Oklahoma accent.
That's right. He couldn't lose it.
Yeah.
To me, he sounds like Penn Jillette. If you listen to both of them, it's like very similar. Which is, I love Penn, but I when I hear Penn talk, I hear Lon Chaney Jr.
Yeah, I come from the hills of Transylvania. And I was like, okay.
That's right.
But
right.
there, he was Alucard.
That's right.
That's right.
But in Return of the Vampire, it was always a name like Orkoff or something like that.
Only we love Lon Chaney Jr., but even in The Wolfman, he's Claude Rains' son. That just doesn't work.
Oh, yes.
Well, this distinguished British actor was a foot shorter than Lon Chaney. Gilbert and I, we analyze these things.
Yeah.
I
see that.
Still love it. But it just wasn't working.
Claude Rains comes up to his knees.
Hey, Father, I have something to admit. I have a theory.
But my
sad.
favorite Claude Rains line is in because Cheney is talking about, does he believe in lycanthropy? And he goes, well, there's certain forms of schizophrenia, and but a man actually taking the shape of a wolf, I know, it's fantastic.
That's right. Thank you, Father.
and Bela Lugosi as Bela.
Yeah, and Maria Ospinskaya,
Oh,
of course,
Maria
who we all love.
Ospinskaya.
And
right.
you know,
We love her
Maria
cast.
Ospinskaya is one of like the she's known as like one of the most famous acting teachers. Way before Lee Strasberg.
She invented the the whole acting.
Stanislavski
Yeah, she
method?
practically
Yes.
invented it, and then she's appearing in Universal Horror.
Right.
And she must have felt like she was doing porn to be doing.
It was a come down, I think. It was like didn't quite work. Her Hollywood career didn't quite work, but she's well remembered. I think she's mentioned on Dick Van Dyke Show. They bring up her name, don't they? One time.
Maria Ospinskaya.
Yeah, they do bring it up.
She's mentioned in an Odd Couple episode by Jack Carter.
That's right.
Yeah, which is
right.
pretty obscure.
I heard that. Well, like Chico Marx's daughter Maxine wanted to be an actress at one point, and she took lessons from Maria Ospinskaya.
Ah, that's right.
And one time, and I wish there had been at least a snapshot of this, Chico invited her out to dinner. And it was Chico Marx and
Wow.
Maria Ospinskaya.
Well, he would fuck anything. You know that. It's like even, Sophie Tucker.
Chico.
That's right. That's something I could draw. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Them in bed together. But
Hey, Maria. Oh, boy, that's a hot.
if Chico's daughter started doing the Italian accent, her career might have taken off a little. You know.
She looked like Chico.
Yeah,
That
she
was
did.
a
If she
funny
used to,
thing.
hey, boss. What's the matter? If she had adapted her father's mannerisms, she might have gone far. But she resisted that. I don't know why.
I'm gonna attempt a segue here. Speaking of Jack Carter,
You were in Playboy, weren't you?
I was in the centerfold. Yes.
it's little Annie
Under
Fanny.
1963.
I was in Playboy in this last month's issue,
You're
the
right.
January, February
Maybe that's what I was
issue.
thinking.
That was a great illustration by my friend Philip Burke. He drew you, and you
great.
had a beautiful comment about Shemp, which
yes.
I shared on Facebook. The women screaming Shemp when they're reaching orgasm.
Yes,
basically.
yes.
It's beautiful. I loved it.
Yeah, I was in the one with Kate Moss on the cover. January, February issue. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you
My
a guest
subscription
here?
ran out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Why would you let your subscription run on when you used to draw so much for
That's right.
Playboy, as only Frank remembers?
Jack Carter.
Well, I was headed somewhere, but I don't remember.
Jack Carter.
Jack Carter. Well, I was going to ask
To
you.
oblivion.
I was gonna,
if I have anything to say about it.
I was going to ask you about some of the people you've drawn who haven't exactly appreciated.
Well, I'll talk about one guy who I wasn't sure about at first. When I did the first book, Old Jewish Comedians, the publisher sent them out to some of the still living comedians, you know. And
Plus, it would be a waste of postage.
No, I was all for sending them out
Send
to
it
the dead
dead.
ones, like drop them off at their grave sites. So they sent them to, so we sent it to Mickey Freeman and Freddie Roman. And they called me, actually, left messages on the phone. They loved it. They loved the book. So we sent one to Jerry Lewis, too, in Las Vegas. And so Jerry calls, leaves a message. Hello, Drew Friedman. This is Jerry Lewis. Please call me back. And he leaves his phone number twice. I say, oh, shit. Jerry doesn't sound happy. Yeah. What did I do? Is it because I didn't put him on the cover? I put Milton Berle on it? Because I gave him that stupid expression?
Yeah.
So I got up my nerve. I say to Kathy, all right, I'm going to call him back. And I call him back. I say, hi, Jerry. So you got the book? And he goes, yes, Drew, I got the book. I said, well, what'd you think? Jesus Christ, I loved it. Holy moly, what a book. So I was safe. But Jack Carter was not happy.
Notice I went negative first before the Jerry Lewis.
A reporter from the LA Times called me and said, what do you think about being in a book called Old Jewish Comedians? He goes, he hadn't seen it. He goes, old? He was like 90. I think at the time he was 97. He was 97. And Jewish? I don't work Jewish. I was like, yeah, well, you happen to be Jewish. You don't work. I don't work Jewish.
Yeah, because you never would have known
How
Jack
about the
Carter
word?
was
How about
Jewish.
comedian? You okay with the word comedian? And he goes, and then he finally saw the drawing, and it got worse. He goes, he drew me with those stupid liver spots, and he combed my hair over like I'm going bald. He said, I want him to draw me again. I didn't talk to him, but I said, no, tell him like one drawing per Jew, one drawing per customer. That was it. He wasn't happy. Sid Caesar, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
He wasn't happy either.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I outed his real name. Kathy and I did research back in the, when the interwebs were still early.
Kathy, your lovely wife.
That's right. And so
Who's
his name in all the websites said Isaac Sidney Caesar. So that's what we used in the book, because the only text in the books are their real Jewish names, because every one of them changed their names, except for one or two. Carl Reiner is really Carl Reiner. Menashe Skolnick is really Menashe Skolnick.
Yeah, you wouldn't change
And
it.
Myron
No.
Cohen.
And Myron Cohen is Myron Cohen. But all the others one changed it because they couldn't get work because they were Jews, and so like you know the story. so we kind of outed Sid Caesar, and I outed Don Knotts too. His real name is Archibald, or so all the site said at the time, and he was offended. So his agent called, said, "Oh yeah, Don is not happy about this." He called from Las Vegas. I said, "Shit, I'm sorry. I love Don Rickles. The last thing I wanted to do was offend him." I said, so we'll make a correction in the second book. So the correction is basically Don Rickles says his name was not Archibald. Sid Caesar claims his name was not, because we're not so sure. It's like it's possible they just don't want, they want their legacy to say Sid Caesar, Don Rickles like that. So, some of them were pissed off. But most of them love the books. And some of them will be here when we have the opening reception for this in 2 nights.
You accidentally mentioned Don Knotts, whose real name was Jesse.
That's right.
And when he was dying, Andy Griffith visited his hospital bed and said, speak to me, Jesse. Because he thought by calling him Jesse would annoy him enough. He didn't want to be called Jesse. and he kept saying, "Come on, speak, Jesse."
Did that work?
No.
That killed it.
Yeah, that
They
finished.
should have brought Jim Nabors and Rock Hudson. That would have gotten a jolt out of him. Surprise!
I heard that.
What have you heard?
Yeah.
Because I was just about to bring up Milton Berle's cock. So let's segue into that.
You
We're
could.
saving that.
You don't have the
Save it.
strength.
We're saving that one. And then we'll get to Danny Thomas.
When they were
all right?
doing Gomer Pyle in the Marines.
That's right.
What was that? Gomer Pyle?
He was in Vietnam, I think.
Yes,
And,
yes. But that was the show that was a spin-off.
That's right.
And he was a Marine. And I heard they had an actual Marine who was like a technical advisor and a real tough as nails guy. And he would get really uncomfortable because Rock Hudson would visit Jim Nabors on the set. And they both would drink a little and get a little
frisky.
tired. And they'd be prancing around and giggling and hugging each other.
Did you attend the wedding? 'Cause, I've never met anybody.
He was there.
Were you at the wedding? Because I wasn't invited.
I wish to God.
I wasn't invited. But Wally Cox was the best man. I know that.
The joke around that time was after Rock Hudson died was Rock Hudson had no friends, but he had neighbors up the ass.
That's a beauty.
I think Mark Twain.
Yes.
said-
I believe it was.
I think it was Robert Frost.
Soroyan.
It was Robert. It was one of his final poems.
correct.
Beautiful. That still brings a tear to my eye. Do you want to segue into Milton Berle?
No.
We have him right here on the
bring
cover of your book. So
That's right. Well, I wanted to capture that angry Milton Berle. Remember he used to go on Joe Franklin's show? Shut up, Joe, I'm talking.
Oh,
Pointing
yes,
at him.
yes.
And his cigar smoke was dribbling down his chin. And he would shut, and Joe would that's, I'm sorry, Milton, he just let him go, and he was never funny. But I love Milton because, when he used to go on Howard Stern's show, Howard would only want to talk about his cock. That's it, nothing else. And Milton, what's the matter with you, Howard? He's like, what would your mother say? Well, there are other things we should talk about. So maybe then occasionally Howard would bring us something up, like something, the old days. And Milton said, he would get the conversation back to his cock instantly. It's like, that's all he would,
Because I heard that Milton Berle once in Vegas had a competition with Tom Jones over who had the biggest cock. And
This is after the Forrest Tucker competition.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Where
Forrest
he only
Tucker.
took out enough to win.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And I heard Milton Berle opened up his pants a little bit.
Yeah.
And Tom Jones just went, okay.
It's over.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I've met a few people who've seen it. And they said it was very we know, Kathy and I, a young lady, who actually directed Milton Berle's last film and Adam Sandler's first film.
Oh, my God.
Going Overboard. You remember that one?
Oh, geez.
Wow.
It's like it's an interesting film, but Milton was in there.
I think this stands out as being a bad Adam Sandler movie. Yeah, such a thing
The
as
first in a
possible.
series of bad Adam, right from the get-go. But she said, let me see it.
Yes.
She was direct. She said, all right, let me see it. He obliged her instantly.
Oh, yes.
Set up a table, like we're sitting at.
Set up a table.
He pulled it. He said it was a process of getting it out. She said it was like multicolored. It was like, like you see a big piece of tongue in the delicatessen. It hasn't been sliced up yet. It was he just plopped it down on the table with a big thud. And there it is. She said it was most disturbing. She still has nightmares about it.
And didn't he also walk around parties?
Yeah, naked.
Yeah, and he'd put his dick on a serving platter and walk around.
Who hasn't, right? Of course. Well, you expect it. When he threw a party, you expect it. But he would walk around his dressing room naked in front of his writers. This guy's trying to come up with material, and there he was. Irving Brecker had talked about that in the early 30s. Milton would open the door the first time he met him, and there he was naked, with the gigantic schlong. And then he said, yes, it's completely true. Everything you've ever heard. All true. All true. Not made up.
Oh, we should get back to Aaron Fleming.
Oh, okay.
That was Groucho's girlfriend.
It was his concubine.
Yeah.
His caretaker.
And then, news started coming out about her.
Little by little, like she maybe was a little rough on him, slap him around, throw him down the stairs, beat him over the head with baseball bats, like little things like that.
She would threaten to kill other members of his relatives.
Yeah. She got out of control. She wound up homeless, actually.
Yeah,
homeless
Santa
Monica.
She shot herself.
I guess so.
Yeah. She was homeless, and then she blew her brains out.
She lost it. Yeah. She lost it. You could see it happening. She was Flemmo, of course, as Michael O'Donoghue wrote about her. I mean, I think they did a report. And Flemmo, she was the sixth Marx brother. So she was kind of a sad figure. We knew her when she was still, like, at her height. She was inviting Elliot Gould over to the house all the time.
Oh, and Bill Cosby.
And Sally Kellerman was always there. And she'd fill his house with young, hip celebrities. Yeah. And, so that's when we were invited. We didn't say anything weird or askew about her, But little by little, it started. Someday there's going to be a TV movie.
Oh.
Who's going to play old Groucho? you would be perfect, I think.
Because Groucho, why did your girlfriend Erin Fleming kill herself? Well, Chico needed the money.
Groucho, why did Erin throw you down the stairs?
Because Chico needed the money.
Someday I predict it'll probably be a shitty film, but I'm predicting ahead of time. It'll be a TV movie of the week.
Another one of our favorites is
Kevin Spacey could play old Groucho.
Oh, yes. Bud and Lou.
Well, of course.
With Buddy Hackett and Harvey Korman.
Yeah.
You listen to them do their bits.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's slowed down when Buddy Hackett does Lou. Okay, Abbott. He's like, slows down the entire routines and all the timing is gone.
Yeah, because it's like in Who's on First, he would go, what's the guy's name on first base? And there he's going, Buddy Hackett's going, what is the guy's name
True.
on first base?
It's like they've never seen the routine.
Yes.
Harvey Korman looked nothing like Bud Abbott. He sounded nothing. He was like, he tried to do a gravel voice at least, because, he wanted an Emmy maybe. He was like,
or a Peabody.
I remember Shecky Green going, wasn't Buddy Hackett great as Lou Costello? I remember on Tonight Show specifically saying, wasn't he great on it? Shouldn't he get an Emmy for that performance? Johnny Carson looking at him like, huh?
No, he sucked.
Actually, was
mention those names out there.
I want to know what's the fella's name in left field.
What's the fella's name on second base?
I'm not asking who's on second.
Who's on first?
I don't know. Third base. You got a pitcher on your team?
Well, what kind of team would this be without a pitcher?
I don't know. Tell me the pitcher's name.
Tomorrow?
Why don't you want to tell me today?
I'm telling you, man.
Then go ahead.
Tomorrow.
What time?
What time what?
What time tomorrow are you going to tell me the name of the pitcher?
Now listen, who is not pitching? Who
You
is...
break your arm. You say who's on first.
Then why come up here and ask?
I want to know what's the pitcher's name.
What's on second?
I don't know.
Third base.
You got a catcher?
Well, of course.
The catcher's name.
Today.
Today.
Mm-hmm.
And the pitcher's tomorrow.
Now you've got it.
I got it. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's all Coopertown's got is a couple of days on their team. That's all.
Well, I can't help that. What do you want me to do?
You got a catcher.
Yes?
I'm a good catcher, too, you know.
Oh, yes, I know that.
Oh, I would like to play for Cooperstown.
Well, I might arrange that.
I would like to catch now. Tomorrow is pitching on the team, and I'm catching.
Yes?
Tomorrow throws the ball, and the batter gets up, and he bunts the ball.
Yes?
So when he bunts the ball, me being a good catcher, I want to throw out the guy at first base.
Yes?
So I pick up the ball, and I throw the ball to who?
Now, that's the first thing you said right.
I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Well, that's all you have to do.
I throw it to first base.
Yes.
Now who's got it?
Naturally.
Who has it?
Naturally.
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 I throw the ball to naturally.
No, you throw it to who?
Naturally.
Naturally. Well, say it that way.
That's what I'm saying.
Don't get excited. Take it easy. Don't get excited.
I throw the ball to first base.
Okay. Then who gets it?
He better get it.
Now, this is all right. Now, will you take it easy now, Lou? Just take it easy.
I throw the ball to first base. Whoever it is, he grabs the ball, but the guy runs to second.
Uh-huh.
Who picks up the ball? He throws the ball to what? What throws it to? I don't know. Throws it back to tomorrow. A triple play.
Yeah, could be.
Another guy gets up, he hits a long fly ball to center. Why? I don't know. And I don't care.
What was that?
I said I don't care.
Oh, that's our shortstop.
I'm a bad boy.
And
fascinating.
My old-time favorite death scene is Buddy Hackett lying in
right.
a hospital
wanna-
bed, and Artie Johnson, very interesting,
Yeah.
from Laughing.
Playing
their
Eddie,
agent.
Eddie Sherman.
Yes, he
That's right. He's
shows
good.
up.
He's good in it.
And he brings him under his coat a strawberry malted. And he goes, he takes a sip and he goes, Eddie, I had a lot of strawberry malted in my day, but this one's the best. And he falls down
That's
dead.
right.
It was great.
When they tell him his son died, like, I'm sorry, Lou. Lou Jr. Just died. He goes, my son Lou Jr. just died. He's like, get on with it. Get on with it. Yeah, he just died. He's dead. He drowned. My son Lou Jr. He's like, it takes like a half an hour, though. I have to set up a foundation for Lou Jr. Louis Jr.
It's there.
He died. I'm a bad boy.
Groucho, why did Lou Costello Jr. have to die?
Because Chico needed the money.
You mentioned Howard Stern a minute ago. Tell us how Howard Stern became one of your biggest fans.
Well, actually, Billy West, who was one of your recent guests, actually
was.
brought Howard one of our books, Warts and All. And then the next day, Howard, this is around 20 years ago or so, Howard was talking about it on the air, actually reading some of the dialogue from. And since then, we kind of had we kind of hit it off. I illustrated both of Howard's books, Miss America and Private Parts. And, so he's been very supportive of me over the years. And, he's mentioned that I'm his favorite artist. I don't agree, but that's what he claims. I mean, I don't agree that I'm my favorite artist. But anyway, so we go back. We go way back. He's been very supportive. Terrific guy. And I like Jerry Lewis too. I have nothing bad to say about him.
Jerry Lewis is one of those people, infamous. I've just met him a handful of times, and he was always nice to me. Mm-hmm. And that's the classic line. When anyone
nice to
you
me.
talk to, he was, yeah. I met Kathleen Freeman, and I said, so what was Jerry Lewis like to work with? Because she worked with him in a lot of movies. And she said, well, he was always nice to me.
He's always nice to me. I remember Gilbert doing the aristocrats joke in front of Jerry. I think that's what gave him the heart attack. He had a heart attack that afternoon at the Hilton Hotel.
And when he grabbed his chest and went, hi!
It was a beautiful moment.
How did the old Jewish comedians book come about? The first one, and the book series.
Briefly, the editor of the books, Monty Beauchamp, my friend, was doing these series of books and said, "Drew, do you want to do one? These square hardcovers. You can do anything you want." And I said, "Well, the money isn't great, but what do I like drawing the most? I like drawing old Jews, and I like drawing comedians. So I combined that, old Jewish comedians. So that's what I came up with. So we've done 3 books now, and now we're here at the Society of Illustrators, where they're having the old Jewish comedian show with all the artwork is hanging, and the show's going to be on for 2 months through May. So hopefully everybody can come visit.
Hopefully we'll have the podcast up soon enough for
That'd be
people to hear
terrific.
this.
Hopefully we'll have a podcast.
Fun show. Even if you hate Jews.
Don't assume anything.
Even if you hate Jews, you're going to love this show. Even if you're Mel Gibson, you're going to love this show. I guarantee it. And it's like not everybody loves the Jews, but everybody loves old Jewish comedians.
Let's talk about
Danny Thomas.
Okay.
You know what? When they finally write the glass coffee table book about Danny Thomas, you know the title.
Make room for duty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Should that end it?
Don't encourage him.
Now, we both knew Sid Melton.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, you mean personally? Or?
No, I met him personally about 3 times. Yeah, that's
He lived
it.
in Van Nuys?
Yes.
Yeah.
In a pathetic apartment.
Near where Joey Ross died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Joey Ross died in Van Nuys.
And I heard
That's where he
Joey
lived.
Ross, before he died, grabbed his chest and went, ooh, ooh.
It's likely.
That's right. Joey Ross used to, he married hookers.
Yes.
And then he would get offended that all his friends were fucking them. I can't believe this. So he'd keep divorcing and marry another one.
And I heard that Nat Hiken hated Joey.
Well, Joey smelled. That was like, to begin with.
Like Rosie Greer?
Yeah, and Imogen Coco, who was a distinguished actress, from your show. And she had to work with him, and he was wearing a loincloth at that point. And It's About Time. She couldn't stand him. Nobody liked him.
And I heard
Fred Gwynn put up with him. He liked him.
I heard he thought he was like he immediately thought he was a big
That's right.
Shakespearean actor and a major star. And I heard one time they had some people who were invited to the set, some women who were from some whatever religious group, and they passed by Joey Ross's dressing room. The door was open and he was there jerking off.
What else would you expect?
I don't know if he wore his top hat.
That's something else only I could draw. I'm going to get right to work on that one. What was he jerking off to? I have to. What in particular?
The thing with 2 heads.
He was jerking off to pictures of Al Lewis.
Maria
Schnauzer. I never heard that one, but that's a nice memory.
I met Joey Ross at Cantor's, when it used to be a hangout.
Yeah.
And
when it was good.
Oh, yes.
Before it was lousy. Yeah.
Yes. And I remember I had just done a pilot, and I was there with the other guy who worked on the pilot, and we met Joey Ross, and we told him, and Joey Ross said, well, I just hope you guys have the luck that I did. I did 3 pilots, and they all became series.
That's great.
That was great.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
I think they want to close.
The Society?
Yeah.
No, they put a for sale sign out in front.
I think it's closing. Everybody's hungry.
They left.
It's only midnight. What have we left out?
They're showing new tenants, the building.
What have we left out?
Before we run,
One more.
Can I ask you were kind enough to give me a copy of Skidoo for my birthday.
Oh, my God.
Could you briefly share
Skidoo.
your passion for the movie Skidoo?
Well, it's like Skidoo is one of those films where they give it to a guy who's never made a comedy in his life, with no sense of humor. Otto Preminger, who also shared Danny Thomas's passion for glass coffee tables, by the way.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that over dinner.
All right.
But so what does Hollywood do in 1960? They give him a movie to do, a comedy movie, all-star comedy movie too. It's possibly the worst comedy ever made, possibly the worst film ever made, with the greatest cast: Jackie Gleason, Carol Channing, who does the striptease in it. Oh, it's disturbing. It's hard to watch. Right. Frankie Avalon
And Groucho.
Yes. Groucho Marx is like, why did you appear in that film, Groucho? He plays God.
Chico needed the money. Even though Chico had been dead for 10 years, he still needed the money for his maintenance of his gravesite.
But it's fascinating to watch because Jackie Gleason is angry throughout the whole film. Like, how did I get in this?
Doesn't he drop acid in the picture?
With Austin Pendleton.
Groucho's name is LSD.
He's God in that one.
Oh, he's God. Okay.
Right. Dick Shawn is LSD in the producer.
Okay.
He's God in that.
Yes.
It's terrible. Not a laugh to be had, but it's fascinating just the same.
And it's Hollywood showing they didn't understand the whole hippie youth movement.
Right.
But
proving it.
Yeah.
We got to be part of this. But it's like giving Stanley Kramer, another guy who never made a comedy, who actually made a funny one. So that was the thinking. Like anybody can direct a comedy. So they gave it one to Otto Preminger. It was like hardly ever made a good movie, let alone a comedy movie. Yeah, Laura was his one, classic.
Well, then Anatomy of a Murder.
Yeah, but he was all of a sudden a comedy director. It's fascinating to watch. It's good to do.
I heard that John Philip Law.
He's a hippie.
He was offered the part of Joe Buck in Midnight Cowboy.
I heard that too. That's right.
And he turned it down Because he figured, hey, what? I'm going to play a homosexual hustler out in the street when I could be doing a classic comedy with Groucho Marx and Jackie Gleason.
I think you know why he didn't take that film? 'Cause he didn't want to get a blowjob from Bob Balaban. When he read that, when his agent said, "Well, look, we got Bob Balaban, on 42nd Street, he's gonna get, gonna blow you." He said, "Hey, do I need this?"
But then they asked John Philip Law, "Why'd you take Skidoo?" He said, "'Cause Chico needed the money."
Thank you, Drew.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Is this is this show gonna be canceled?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's never happened.
It's a pleasure.
It won't be a shock when it's canceled.
Next time we'll go further.
We're here at the Society of Illustrators on 63rd between Park and Lex. Here with famous illustrator and cartoonist Drew Friedman. I'm Gilbert Gottfried, here with my co-host Frank Santopadre, and this has been the Amazing Colossal Podcast.